Today in this video, I'm going to talk about how to optimize your entire sales process and choose the right stages for sales when it comes to selling enterprise technology. So this can mean anything from enterprise SaaS, whether you're selling software as a subscription or software as a service, along with actual physical services, or if you're just selling the software platform itself. Usually your deal sizes are much bigger. You might be charging $50,000, $100,000 in ARR, or you might be shooting for $1 million deals and they take a long time to close. So here's how to optimize your sales process for efficiency and how to get the most out of your sales and marketing team by setting up those stages properly. So first, the number one thing you need to determine is what that first stage looks like. Now, people often forget that it's not just about the sales stages, but also about the marketing stages. So usually you'll have a marketing qualified lead that gets put into HubSpot or Salesforce that gets worked by your marketing team. The problem with this actually comes down to having clear definitions for what is an owned lead versus what is a cold lead. Usually I'll come into companies that are pretty large, 50 employees, 100 employees, 500 employees even, that still are defining their marketing qualified leads as just cold leads. They're basically lists that they're buying from events or lists that they're getting from trade shows, lists that they're scraping from tools like ZoomInfo or 6sense or Apollo, and they're putting them into their database even though they're just cold leads. I think this is a little bit unproductive because you're cluttering your database with not only a whole bunch of email addresses and contacts that really have no business being in your database in the first place, but they also aren't interested because the reality is only 1% of those people are going to show any interest in your company in the future. So you end up with like 70,000, 100,000, 200,000 contacts that really don't need to be in there in the first place. So I believe that the easiest way to create your marketing qualified lead is just as soon as someone opts into something. So if they fill out a form, if you're running ads and they basically come in as a verified lead, you should clean them with a tool like Zero Bounce or Never Bounce or Million Verifier, and then put them into HubSpot or Salesforce or wherever you're running your CRM from. So that's the first stage, is that marketing qualified lead. Make sure that they're not actually just cold, where you're creating your opportunities, right? So once you create an opportunity, that's actually a sales activity or a sales opportunity, not just the marketing qualified lead. Usually people call this like an SQL, a sales qualified lead, but I like to just call this discovery. The reality is when you're selling these larger deals, you can't just jump into a demo. And if you do, it's when you're much further along in the process and you've basically created something very predictable and scalable, which is usually not the case when you're a company of, 500, 100, 500 employees, right? So the best way to kind of define this is a discovery call. So that first sales opportunity stage is going to be a discovery call. During that call, that might be, 2 to 3 calls if you need it to be. They just stay in that discovery stage. But the questions that you're asking here are just for discovery purposes. So this is uncovering the prospect's pain points and the prospect's issues. And then once they are ready for a demo, that's when you can move them to the demo stage. I like to call this the demo stage or the exploratory call, the exploratory phase. But in your CRM, you can just kind of refer to it as the demo stage. During this, that's when you show people what your solution is and how it links to those problems. You can present them a very specific plan and kind of create a demo around their problems. That is usually just one call. It can be 2, but that's kind of the second stage. After that, I like to move to something called partnership. So partnership kind of gets in their mind like, hey, you've seen a demo, you've had these problems identified in discovery. Now it's time to move on to a partnership call. And again, this might be multiple, but that partnership call makes it really easy just to bucket people in for if you're designing a solution or if you're designing a project. That partnership call just allows you to basically try to make a project happen rather than trying to pitch and like hard sell someone into a box. you can use that partnership stage to kind of scope something that feels unique to them, even if it's the same as what you've been presenting to everyone else. That partnership call can usually be a little bit longer, or you might do multiple of them. And then finally, you can move people over into a negotiations stage in your CRM. And you usually wouldn't book in a separate call for like negotiations, but you can just keep that as like the partnership call or another check-in call. And then you're kind of in that negotiation stage where you might be designing the contract, basically going through all the red tape or procurement process that's required to close some of those larger contracts or those larger deals. Finally, that's when you have your closed won or your closed lost. Now, I'm of the belief that if someone has gone through even to demo, there's no real reason why you should drop them into closed lost and just never talk to them again. That is crazy. It's one of the biggest problems that I see coming into companies and trying to solve some of their sales and marketing problems and some of their growth problems in general. If you just re-engage all those leads that have dropped off of your funnel, it's an easy, efficient way to basically get the most out of your pipeline. So just to review, you have your MQL stage, which you're only creating once someone has either opted in or shown real interest, basically given you their info or raised their hand in some sort of way to create an interested lead. Now, these don't all have to be opted in own leads, but they can be, or they should just be people who have shown interest and raised their hand. That next actual stage of the sales pipeline should be discovery. The next would be demo. And then the third would be partnership. And the fourth sales opportunity stage could be negotiations, which is usually what I like to do. And then finally, you have your closed lost and won. Just keep in mind that your closed lost shouldn't just drop off completely. You should re-engage them or put them into some sort of campaign to continue reaching out. If they were already an interested contact that you own their lead from when they booked one of those calls, those should be on your newsletter, and you should be repurposing content to basically fit their needs so that when they revisit your LinkedIn page, your YouTube page, your website, they're getting relevant content and staying engaged and in your ecosystem. So that's the sales process or the sales pipeline that I like to set up for most clients that are selling enterprise technology or any sort of service that is related to technology on a B2B level. Hope that helps.